So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Russell Smith, who's Managing Director at RS Accountancy. So, firstly, Russell, thank you for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. Really good to be here. So my name's Ross. I'm an accountant, run an accountancy firm. We're completely remote, so clients all over the UK. My team is all over the UK. Don't have an office, don't do face-to-face meetings. Everything is on Zoom, WhatsApp, and emails. And we basically cater for clients, mostly 1 to 5 employees, so quite small.
Yep.
And generally, our clients fit into either professional services, creative sector, and healthcare. These are the three main categories.
Oh, cool. Brilliant. And in terms of a type of client, I appreciate the sectors. What makes a great client for you? Just in terms of maybe their
Yeah,
identity, their behaviours, etc.
yeah. Under 40 is really good.
Cool.
People are really young, digital, techie people, creative, kind of hungry to kind of grow, and I guess people who are maximizing on, online, social media,
Yep.
video games, all that stuff. People are kind of really pushing those boundaries, really. So yeah.
Brilliant. Wonderful. And so I maybe we start sort of looking backwards to start with, and you'd be kind of talking a little bit about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you.
Yeah, well, my I became a business owner because essentially I wanted to go to Australia to be the best man to my brother's wedding,
Yeah.
and I couldn't get time off. so,
Brilliant.
so, so I resigned, which honestly
Brilliant.
is actually really quite poor behavior. I look back now and think, well, it's not amazing, but that's what I did. And I never was employed again. That was what,
Love
20
it.
years. So sorry
Uh,
everyone. Sorry to my employer, but yeah, I think it was just essentially I wanted flexibility.
yeah.
And I wanted to sort of dictate what I wanted to do and wanted to work the way I wanted.
Yeah.
Of course, things change when your business grows because actually the flexibility that I had when I was a one-man band, I do not have now. And obviously, if one of my employees just left because of that, I'd probably be mightily annoyed. But that's honestly what happened. Yeah.
I always find it fascinating how businesses start, and there's so many different reasons than just there's plenty that I always wanted a business and did business studies, whatever. But there's so many different people. Just this happened, so that happened. It was
Yes.
I was interviewed a fairly young woman last week who's got a online sweets business, and she did it as a side hustle before she went traveling. I
Wow.
think she qualified as a teacher, came back, had to come back because of COVID. No teaching jobs because of COVID. So let's do the sweets. So now they've got a multi-million pound business selling sweets,
Oh
and
wow.
you
Yeah.
and you just go brilliant. And
Circumstantial. Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't have some great vision to take over the world of accountancy. It just, as you say, it just happened. Yeah. So
it's brilliant. And I mean, I think it's a really important point. We don't have to have some, for anyone watching thinking of starting the business, it doesn't have to be anything other than something that gives you a lifestyle that you should have.
no,
Um,
no, that's it. That's it.
and I think
That's
that's
it.
I'm keen to know a bit about, talk to me a little bit about the remote working, how that came about, and
Yeah.
what do you see as the benefits? I mean, some of this might seem obvious, but let's be clear. What are the benefits? What are some of the challenges? What are your learnings of setting that up for you?
Yeah, and again, not an amazing answer here, not planned. We were forced to go remote because of COVID.
Yep.
And really strangely, when we were allowed back in the office, we had an office. In fact, in one of my greatest business decisions, I actually signed for the office for a 2-year lease in the February 2020, 1 month before COVID, and then couldn't use the office and couldn't get out of the contract. So I was paying 3.5 grand a month for 2 years
No.
without even going into the office. So, and that's a thing not to do. But in my defence, I wasn't predicting a global pandemic. But anyway,
No, I
um, um,
think you're
but
okay
but
there.
the we were forced to go remote. When we were allowed back in, we did go back in the office for 3 months, and then just thought, what are we doing? This is kind of pointless. Very oddly, most accounting professions practices have come back into
Yeah.
the office. A lot of them hybrid,
Yep.
but very few are actually 100% remote, which to me is kind of like, crazy because it worked so well. Now, in my head, there is a big difference between working from home and remote working. So my business is
Great.
completely set up for remote working. With the software, the way we work, the way we communicate, the way we position ourselves with clients, it's all very set up that way.
Yeah.
And to some extent, we were winning clients all over the UK anyway because of like Google AdWords and all that stuff. So we may have been pre-positioned,
Yeah.
but essentially since 2020, I've been asked for two face-to-face meetings from my clients. That's two in 6 years.
Right.
Well, 6 years. So nobody wants to meet me face to face. Now that might just be me, but the
I'm
reality is
sure not.
they do not care. They
Yeah.
want to know what their tax bills are, when they need to pay it, and if they need business advice, they want to be on the Zoom as quickly as possible, and they want to be out doing their own business. They do not be traveling. Now, that's not the experience of other accountants that I know, but that's just my experience. So, but we have set it up like that, and the team are trained in that. It's all very geared up like that. And of course, the biggest kind of win for me on that was I was always struggling to recruit. I mean, every business owner will say that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in where I was based, I was in a Leeds office. There's a pool of accountants. Most of them are going to go into industry. The people that are left over into accountancy practices, 80% is going to be snapped up by the big firms. And then you've
Yeah.
got all the small firms fighting over these guys. Now I can recruit
Love it.
anywhere in the world, which is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. No, it's a really really interesting point, and I think going back to your point about clients not wanting or needing it, I think it's often when I work with people, it's their desire. They go, well, our clients want to meet me face to face. Of course they do. Well, often it's you want to meet them face to face, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's ask them. I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Ask them, and uh,
Is yeah.
it, it
I remember being in a meeting with my business coach years and years ago, insisting that if I wanted to win a client, I had to be in front of them face to face. I had to be. And she challenged me and said, "You can do this on the phone." I said, "No, I can't." Obviously, now I do it on Zoom and phone, and it's very, very easy. But yeah, it's just mindset, I guess.
It's his mindset, isn't it? I mean, it is a big mindset. I think what helped me was in my first business. We did some international work. I'm not claiming we were, but we did quite a lot of work with the States for a period. And so, and when we went over there, it was quite clear they don't expect to see people because it's such a big country. You don't go,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll pop down and see you because it's 1,000 miles. So the idea of at that point, teleconferencing was the main thing and everyone was happy with it. And I think, it taught me that it isn't a requirement. And so, um, so how often do you get together physically? Not at all. Is there
Once a year, once
once
a
a year?
year. Once so our team are as far north as Aberdeen,
Brilliant.
and the southernmost point is London, and it's everywhere in between. And there's one person in Guatemala. So
Brilliant.
that person's not like an outsourced person; they're an expat. Essentially, they came from a recruitment agent. Just happens to be in Guatemala. So it's a big effort
Brilliant.
for everyone to get together once a year. But we do it for a couple of days, and that's pretty much it. But we do see each other a lot. So people often
Yes.
ask me, "Well, how do you train people? How do you communicate?" And honestly, um, I know everything that's what's going on because of the way that the software is set up. So there's a piece of software called Carbon, which is specific to accountancy practices. It's massive in America. It's not as big in the UK.
Okay.
It's a bit in Australia. I love Carbon so much that I've been threatening to get a tattoo on my arm on it. Obviously, he's bonkers. But the
Do
people
it.
we absolutely do exactly. We love it. It's intense, but it basically gives you lots of information all at the same time. So back in the day in the office, I would know some aspects to it, and the team would know their clients. Now we know everything. So we meet a lot, we Zoom a lot, we Teams a lot,
Yeah.
and I don't feel that we're disconnected. I will say though, Chris, I will tell you, do I miss the office sometimes? Do I miss the kind of camaraderie of that? If I'm honest, yes, I do. I do
Yeah.
miss that sometimes, but the benefits have just outweighed, the kind of
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I do have one client that fully, very similar to you, fully remote working, and I didn't realize how remote because and they do one, possibly two meetings a year, but I think all the meetings they do are also related to client meetings too. So they'll do a client event and because a lot of their clients are in London, so it makes sense. So we meet in London, and I didn't realize that I went there last summer, I think, or the summer before when I went down the first time. They you know they like you, they're global. So there was quite a few in the UK, but there was someone in Sweden, someone in she's either in Bali or and she moves between Bali and Thailand or somewhere. And what's really interesting, because I coached the owner and a couple of the SRT, you wouldn't know it. You don't. There's no sort of there's no part of any of the conversations I have with them where they go, "Oh yeah, but we can't do that because of this," and you just go, "It's totally empowering." I regularly coach the person in Bali and the person she's Irish but she lives in Edinburgh, and it's the same time, and you just don't know, and it's a cool thing to do, isn't it? When you just want to have to be able to build a lifestyle
Yeah.
um, uh, uh, anywhere in the world.
And I think if you were going to push me and say, like obviously it happened because of COVID, there's all these benefits of it. I didn't know that there were going to be so much benefits of remote working, but reality was my kids at the time were in primary school, and after seeing them for so much time in COVID, and obviously the homeschooling and all that, the idea of going back to the office and having all those logistics of
Yeah,
what if someone's forgotten a packed lunch or what if someone's ill and being able, I was just like, I need to make this more flexible for me. So
brilliant.
it happened that it kind of worked. And it honestly, it really did help with the kind of the sort of looking after kids and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. So looking back, and whether it's related to the remote working or not, what are some of the biggest issues and challenges you've had to overcome as you've grown the business, Russell?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think my answer to that would be I think one of the problems with most business owners, they don't really know what they want. They don't really know what size they want to be. They don't want to know, how much they obviously want more money, but they're not sure if they're prepared to make those leaps. And
Yep,
business, like, well, certainly my business, and I'm sure a lot of accounting practices, you can grow, grow, grow. It's all growing great. And you hit ceilings, and those ceilings, sometimes they're kind of systems. So you can manage a certain number of clients, but then you need management. Sometimes it's cash. I think in my case, it's mindset. So kind of like a victim of my own success, get to a certain point and don't know if I want to go to the next level or not,
yeah,
because the next level isn't doing the stuff that I was doing to get me here. Honestly, my ideal day is put me in a room and just do sales meetings all day. That's my ideal of my idea of fun.
brilliant.
But that's not the whole of business.
Yeah,
Manage team, manage cash, system, software, HMRC updates, all that stuff. And it's like,
yes,
do you want to? So I think my biggest challenge is what the hell do I actually want?
yeah,
And mentioning no names, is a great guy that I know, runs accounts practice, bigger than mine, grew bigger than mine. Um, and he obviously went through the pain barrier of growth. And I'm only coming out of, probably a couple of years of hitting a ceiling and going, am I happy sitting here in this ceiling?
yeah,
It's a nice life. It's flexible. Clients are happy. Systems are good. Or do I want to push forward? And honestly, Chris, a lot of this has to do with the age of my kids. So when they're
great.
younger, I was like, do you know what? I just want to I want to have a nice, afford the nice things, not super rich or anything, but, just look after my kids. Good.
Yep,
Now they're a bit older. I'm like, okay, I'm approaching 50. I'm like, I want to push this. So we are now
brilliant,
pushing through that pain barrier, which
brilliant.
involves me stepping aside in some ways. It involves me doing different things, again, different mindset, that sort of thing, and kind of going for it. And there's a level of risk to that as well in terms of
Yep.
cash and growth. So yeah, I'm in a really good place right now. But it's been, like a lot of accountancy sole practitioners, of what we call them, there's a ceiling on this, and some
Yes.
that can vary, but there is a ceiling. And if you want to go for the ceiling, you gotta do something different.
Yeah, and as you said, there's got to be a reason because, like, if there isn't a reason, why bother?
What about? Mm.
There's no point business for business sake, and I do find sometimes people assume, and it's probably part of my nature, but even without saying anything, they often assume I'm just there because I want them to double, treble, 10 times or whatever, and I said no, I'm just here to help you get the lifestyle that you choose to have, or probably the one you thought you were going to have you dreamt of having when you started the business. Let's at least
Yes.
get back to that because most people are
Yes.
divergent from that.
Mm.
But I do think, and it's a lot of people I work with is it's when the owner has become the barrier to that growth.
Yeah.
because they're still connected to too many parts of the business. And
I actually think there's two parts. I think definitely the bottleneck because you're just one person, and
yep,
the relationships are with you, with customers and all that. You're bottlenecking.
yes,
I think there's a mindset thing here. I think it's the growing a business for yourself is cool. Growing a business for other people, for your team, for your clients, that's outside of your own kind of experience and I think that's the thing that I have struggled with to
yep,
push through. I feel like I'm there now. It's taken me a
brilliant,
while to get to that point where no, I am prepared now to let it's kind of like letting loose, but still guiding. It's like
100%.
parenting, Chris.
Absolutely. Yeah,
My
absolutely.
business now teenagers are about to leave, but that's where we're at. Yeah.
I, there's a lot of skills we pick up from parenting, without a shadow of a
Yes.
doubt. Management, definitely. But I think that's right. But that's building a business to suit your lifestyle. I think it's perfect. I really do. I mean, I was very similar. That I remember when my kids were younger, and I worked with people with younger kids. It's like, look, there's no point planning to travel around the world or live in probably a foreign country because my kids are going through school, but
Yes.
they won't at some point. And I think that's where we can plan our life and therefore our business to match and mirror that. Mine are both gone. One of them's meeting up with a friend in Indonesia next couple of weeks
Oh wow.
away,
Brilliant.
which is pretty cool. And the other one's totally sorted with a job and house
Great.
and all that sort of stuff. And it's just like, so we can then choose what's next. So I couldn't agree more. And again, whether it's from the challenges or the successes that you had, what would you say your key learnings about growing a business successfully are, Russell?
Okay, so I'll just be a bit, open about my own personal deficiencies here if I can. Um,
There's no
you know,
need.
I've always found sales and marketing really easy. I found the kind of winning clients great, and to some extent, I found servicing clients, good as well. I think team recruitment certainly is a challenge,
Yep.
and team. Now, I would have rated up until about maybe 3 years ago. I would have rated myself maybe 7 out of 10 on managing team.
Yep.
So not the greatest manager role, but pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. I now believe I'm 2 out of 10. I mean, and that's probably being generous. Okay. So my belief on team management is you need two things. You need to be consistent and you need clarity. If people know what they're doing and you're consistent with them, great. I gave neither. I
Right.
was unclear and I was inconsistent. One time they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. The next thing, what have you done? I can't believe this is crazy. So I
Right.
after years of thinking I was okay, I was like, do you know what? I actually don't think I'm that good at this. I got someone in the business to run the business and to run the systems
Great.
and crucially to manage the people.
Great.
And when I saw someone actually do it and just do it really well, it really showed me up and thinking, wow, this is crazy. So when I moved from the team management part, then things were really tight to fizz for me because essentially I then moved more into what my strengths were, which was kind of sales and marketing.
Yep.
And that person was in that role and then kind of managed the team. And honestly, Chris, managed it in a way where I couldn't even fathom, suggesting things and doing things and creating this culture, which is such a tough thing, creating a
Yes.
culture, sustained period, creating a culture, which I then had to fit into, by the way. Like I didn't get a pass and say, "Oh,
No.
I don't want this," and that was a bit painful,
Yep.
because grumbling at the edges, thinking, right, I'm going to, get in this culture, and now this culture works, and you end up with this kind of delivery mastery, smooth business. I can't complain now, but it took me a while. So I think the biggest change again is myself getting out of the way of
Yeah.
yourself, knowing what you're good at, and genuinely empowering people.
Love
So I
it.
think that's probably the biggest thing.
I think that's a really great explanation and example of, let's get out of our own way, as you said, find people that are better than us at certain things. And the crazy thing is, this in general, the things we don't like, we're not good at, and we're not good at, we don't like. So why we continually bang our head against a brick wall, saying, "Well, I must be the manager," or in your, rather than go, "Yeah, it's not my bag." Move on. And then I'm happy now because I'm not having to do that thing that I wasn't very good at because I probably didn't like.
Yes, exactly,
And it's
exactly.
logical. It's just emotional, isn't it?
It is emotional. Yeah,
It's the,
it makes sense logically. Yeah.
absolutely. And I know we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you work with, whether that is business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impacts on you?
Well, I had an action coach for Phew, I think it was about 14 years.
Yes, well, yes, brilliant.
So her name was Haley, and yeah, she was amazing
Yep,
for loads of reasons. I mean, honestly, I could talk about the business success and blah blah blah, but actually on a personal level,
yep,
ultimately, if you're running a business and you're just a person living life, personal stuff is going to happen. And she was just incredibly supportive, but also wise beyond anyone that was around me, at that time,
brilliant,
better than family, better than friends.
brilliant.
Not partisan, which I loved, able to have that independence of thought,
Yep,
nice with it, but not, not kind of singing from the same hymn sheet if you don't need to. So I'd say that. I also actually at the time had a life coach, which was completely different kind of bag, which did
yep,
actually enhance things. And I think that was really, really good. But again, it's that whole thing of like the obvious thing of just getting around the right people is just
yeah.
you're the sum of the people around you, and podcasts and learning and books, they do help. They do help, definitely. You can in some way build a power team around people you don't know. I do believe that's true. But obviously, people around you that who've done it, been there, done it, and just looking for the kind of mentors. I think that just because we're all well, I am in my mindset, aren't I? So you're kind of stretching your
Yes.
your mindset out, really. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think, I've been 22 years, we've known each other for quite a long time. I've been doing it 22 years and I've still got my own coach because I've still got my own mindset issues. I know how to coach, but it's impossible. It's, I think, impossible for me to coach myself because I'm still created this cage around me that's just my beliefs and values.
Yeah,
So I need someone to not necessarily pull me out of them, but open the door and say, well, actually, it's a bigger picture.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
and whether it's from the source you mentioned or others, what do you have any favorite quotes or sayings about business or success or life in general that you can share?
Well, I do have one favorite quote, if that's what there's
Yep,
one, and this is going to be very, I'm sure of the guests on your podcast, I'm sure they would have quoted this guy because everyone, who's into self-help and all that knows this guy. But Jim Rohn,
yep,
I think, is the pinnacle. So
yep,
special mention to Brian Tracy, who's probably influenced me more. Brian Tracy, his books and his the audios I've got of him. But I think Jim Rohn was just the guy. Obviously, Jim Rohn learned all his stuff from a guy called El Shuf, and I've got audio of him. So all this stuff kind of goes back to whenever. But anyway, the quote is that "Don't wish your life was easier, wish that you were better." Which I just love that. I just think that's absolutely spot on because life changes all the time and challenges go up and down, and and obviously you can make life harder for yourself, but it's just about becoming better, so. And even
absolutely.
in the really simple things, so I just did something yesterday. I mean, this is pathetically small, but I'm just going to share it.
Yep, cool.
For some reason, I've got an iPhone. For some reason, I've got a laptop charger, and I charge my iPhone with my laptop plug. Okay, so I'm charging it, and therefore my laptop is going down. What that means is when I go to bed, I don't have a charger in my room, so my charge is often at the 20%. And honestly, the times where it's been low and caused me issues, thinking, what am I doing? So I spent 5 minutes yesterday, and I bought a charger for my bedroom from Amazon. I mean, honestly, it's the most ridiculous tip ever. But it's things like that it's always things of like, wish my life was better. Get a flipping charger, Russ. Do you know what I mean? This is ridiculous. So yeah, things like that.
It's a really interesting. I mean, because it's a great quote because I mean, thinking about it now, I've heard it many times, and is actually when you think about it, the ourselves wishing we were better is actually the controllable. The life is the uncontrollable. Now it's made
Absolutely.
better by controlling the controllables, which is another great quote around that. I never thought about it till you described it like that. But that's the point, isn't it? It's I can change my which I can change me. I can directly change me, but I can't directly change my life. But by changing me, I can change my life.
Definitely. And I think there's that control thing there as well, which actually is kind of control is kind of great when you're starting a business, kind of cool. It gets to a point where you've got to let control at some point because other
Yep,
people have got to get involved. And it's not just playing lip service to control. You genuinely have to step back and watch and see what happens. And then if it goes wrong, then you've got the challenge of when do you step in and how long you give it. Like a football manager, if they're getting bad results, how long do you leave them? When do you give them time? And it's all that stuff which I find really, really cool. But
yep,
even just becoming, just empowering people. And to be honest, I have learned I'd probably say in the last couple of years, there's a couple of people in my life who have really learnt this idea of empowerment.
Yeah.
It was something obviously I knew, in my head, but never really seen it modeled. And I've now seen it kind of modeled kind of up front. And I've
Yeah.
been, again, I don't think I'd ever be as good at it as these two, but it's certainly given me a lot of, kind of tips and how to do things, really. Yeah.
Brilliant. Love it. And any favorite books or podcasts you can recommend?
Yeah, there's a podcast that I really like called the Productivity Podcast.
Okay.
That's really good in terms of kind of small kind of level. So there's a thing called a software called Wisp Flow, which is how you speak. It's like an audio software you speak stuff in, where you kind of compose things. It's got nice little things like that. The Productivity Podcast is kind of
Okay.
is really really good. In terms of books, probably it's interesting actually. The Brian Tracy two books that I like the most probably is Eat That Frog, which probably a lot of people read, and there's one called Goals. It's kind of weird that a lot of these books they go in cycles of 10 years,
Yeah.
where you get a whole new books going. Oh yeah, that stuff that you were reading 10 years ago, that's all completely wrong. Psychology studies have told you to do this now. It's this whole idea of smart goals. Now you've got nice goals and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think with stuff like this, you've got to pick the stuff that works, that works for you. And for me,
Yeah.
Brian Tracy, in terms of goals and the thing with Brian Tracy, everything hurts. It either helps or it hurts. You want a goal, everything hurts or it helps. So, if you want to lose weight, then eating ice cream probably is going to hurt you. Just
Yeah.
being very binary, and probably because I'm very black and white and a bit, inhibited on the way I see things, that really appeals. So I like that kind of do this, do that. I like that. But the Eat That Frog stuff about task management I find really really cool. And the best thing about Brian Tracy was the stuff about balance, about how do we balance life. We balance life all the time like a trapeze artist.
Yeah.
All the time we're
Yeah.
balancing. It's not you get perfect balance. You never get perfect balance. You're just balancing. Kids, because my thing is kids work, and then I've got to build in time to see my friends. Okay.
Yeah.
There is some stuff socially that I do naturally and it works. But honestly, I have a bunch of people that I like to see regularly, and I have to plan that stuff in. Otherwise, it will not happen, and those
Yes.
relationships fail. So it's just constant balancing. I love that stuff from Brian Tracy.
It's a really great point that, as you say, even if you get balance, ultimately you'll go out of balance at some point in the future. It's very unlikely that from now till infinity that it's going to be right. And it's accepting that as being part of life, and
It
therefore
is.
not being surprised or upset when, oh heck, that now that's happened.
It is, and I think with me, a lot of business owners, but certainly with me, I like to take on too much. So it's like inbuilt within me to want to push the boundary, and sometimes that gets to the point where I've gone too far right now. I
Yeah.
have bitten too much. I need to scale this back. But ultimately, if I scale it back and I go back to perfectly equilibrium, I am going to be pushing it again because people ask you to do stuff and it's not, and I don't feel necessarily compelled, but I want to do stuff. I want to kind of
Brilliant.
like push the boat out and stuff like that. So I've accepted that I will probably always be like that,
Yeah.
and I have to,
Yeah.
some basics in life I have to write on a piece of paper to make sure they get done. But that's just the way I am, I guess.
But and I think that's cool. I think the sooner in life we get comfortable with who we are and what we like and don't like, and it's different for everybody. So trying to be like somebody else doesn't make sense. It's not, yeah, you can model some behaviours in other people that we admire, but we're also. I think one of the quotes I got from a lady about 6 months or so ago, which I love, and she said, "Always be yourself because everybody else is taken."
Oh
Which
yeah,
I just thought
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
just a lovely way of looking at it. Why am I trying hard to be somebody else? And sticking on the learning front for now, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Russell?
As a poor, well, I guess there's something to do. I think I'm coming up to 50 next February. So there is probably a natural age thing here that people in their 70s are going to go, yeah, we know that because that happened to us. Like there's a natural thing here. But I think being accepting of, I don't think limitations is the right word, but acceptance of who you are and
Yeah,
what you want and what you're about. So I had probably when in my 20s and 30s, I was probably hungrier for success and probably was more on edge and more nervous and kind of more fear driven.
yeah,
Whereas now I know a hell of a lot more, not just about accountancy, but just about running the business and just experience. I know a lot a lot more, and I kind of reminded that when I speak to, I do like networking with other accountancy practices, especially younger guys, and
Yeah.
I don't do anything official or anything, but I do like chatting to them and in some way
Yeah.
trying to help them. And when I speak to them, I go, God, actually, yeah, I do know a lot about how to run an accountancy practice. This is kind of cool. But I think I had the vision of, oh, I'll be doing this business and this business and this business, and it'll be great. I'll be the serial entrepreneur. One thing, Chris, I've learned about myself is I can't do more than one thing at a time.
Brilliant.
I am not, how Elon Musk does X,
Yeah.
SpaceX, the boring. I just don't know. I
No,
don't know how
no.
it works. Well, I know logically that he has management teams and all this stuff, but I struggle. So I'm coming to 50 and thinking, well, if I'm going to change career, maybe I should do it now. But the thing is, Chris, I love accountancy. I love this
Brilliant.
whole area. I love it, and I've never lost the love and the drive of that of helping people and making what a lot of people see as really scary HMRC letters, tax bills, and
Yeah.
trying to simplify it and make it. So when we get we don't get we don't get testimonials about you've done my accounts in a certain way and it's spectacular. That doesn't happen. We get people saying you've put my thanks for sorting that out. You've put my mind at ease. That's
Yeah.
what they get. Take the fear away.
Brilliant.
The problem they know we can come. I know it sounds very trite, but I think when the older I get, the more that means something to me. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I think probably maybe I've lowered my limitations. I'm not sure, but I've certainly become more grateful of what I have. Maybe.
Brilliant. Love that. So, and I get the next question is probably going to be related to what we've talked about, but I know as we say you're familiar with actually coaching. You probably remember our definition of true business is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without its owner.
Yes.
Given especially what you've just said, how do you feel about that as a definition, and where are you on that journey? If that's a
Yeah,
journey for you, it
definitely.
doesn't have to be.
So I got to a point in the business where it did work without me to the
Yeah,
point where I wasn't really needed at all, and I didn't deal with that well, to be honest. Like I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
I didn't kind of like that. Now what I could have done at that point was take the leap, and then essentially you're talking management teams, you're talking learning more, you're talking better systems, you're talking more sophisticated marketing funnels, you're talking bigger, possibly more financing, And I didn't want that. I didn't do that, so I kind of got a bit stuck for a couple of years.
yeah,
Whereas kind of now I'm in this really kind of lovely position of the business works really, really well without me, but I'm still the sales and marketing guy. Now,
yeah.
my
Got it.
big challenge will be, can I recruit a sales guy that's, uh, better than me? That's can I do that? I'd like to think theoretically I could, or maybe
Yeah,
one of my team can, but that will be the next thing. Because really, I guess my absolute dream would be that I just become the marketing person, so the kind of front man of the business, doing things like this, really, doing
yeah.
more webinars. I've written a book already. I've written a second book, couldn't even bother to publish it. I didn't have time. So more writing, thought leadership, that sort of stuff. That's kind of I guess, my next thing.
Brilliant.
That to do that, you've got to trust your team, and also as an MD, as everyone knows, you can't just abdicate from it as well. You've got to be there in some aspect, whether it's a weekly meeting or a daily check-in or whatever it is. And I think that kind of balance is something that I'm going to have to really, kind of push through and learn.
Yeah, until if you choose to replace yourself as MD, because
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's the last bit of control, and it's probably the most difficult bit of control is the final,
Yes.
I'm not in it anymore at all. And
Yes.
and it's interesting because I have seen two things, a couple of things that are relevant to what you just said. I've seen people um, leave a business. I've managed to exit 35, 40 people now, and sabotaged the process because it didn't like the idea of the other side, literally, and
Yes.
it was absolutely
Yes.
nuts. And being open
Yes.
and honest about it eventually. I've seen people exit them because they really, really, really want to get out, and then as soon as they got out, start two more businesses and got straight back in again. You know,
100%. Yeah.
and
I've,
and
I've seen the same. Yeah.
and it's just really clear. I think the most important thing that I've found is it's so important we know what we're going to do on the other side of
Yes.
full exit, if that makes sense, because people fear the idea of most people that run and grow businesses are fairly driven people. They're active, they want to get
Yep.
stuff done, and all they see without a plan is I'm going to be sitting staring at a wall 24/7. And
Yes. Yes.
And it's like that's the least thing I want to do, but they don't have the plan as our founder Brad would probably say. That's because you haven't got a boat or whatever it is
Yes.
that is
Yes.
the equivalent to you. And yeah, it's such it is quite a rocky road, that one.
I think I've sort of helped clients through the exit process on the tax and the account side, and they do it, and a lot of those guys they get depressed after nothing to do. And you're right about the sabotage. It's funny, isn't it, when we're kind of young in business, we want to grow the business, we want to sell it for this, great, great, great. And then we get to that point where that actually might be a reality, and then people start playing up, you know.
Uh,
So and the guys that got depressed, well, thinking two of them, one got a really great senior position in a great company and actually really enjoyed employment, which is amazing. The other guy, within a few months, went straight back into the same industry,
yep.
did the whole thing again
Yes.
in 3 years. Then, and I don't know how wealthy this guy is, but he sold another business, but this time he did it a lot quicker because clearly he'd learned how to do it. So
Really interesting.
he obviously didn't have the kind of like, well, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just do the same thing. I know how to do it. It's enjoyable. So
Absolutely. And that's really interesting. That learning, isn't it? Is that there isn't a fixed time scale, especially once you know how to do it. I mean, I mean, one of the examples I remember, and definitely no names, although I don't think they'd mind because we laugh and joke about it a bit. But was was having got a founder exited, we had a brilliant MD in place, and they described me. I sat on the board meetings primarily after that, but to show as a referee or stroke marriage counsellor was the way they
yes,
and it took 2 or 3 years for the founder to say the challenge I have is when I sit in a board meeting and the MD says we've grown again another 20% or 30%, all I hear you say is I'm running this business better than you did.
yes,
I,
yes,
and hated it, hated this guy until he
yeah.
realised it, and then having realised it, expressed it, got out of the way. It's a great relationship now, and it's wonderful. But it's all
But
those sort of
that
go on.
sorry to interrupt, Chris. That is just within me as a business owner. We say these things about I'm good at this, I'm not good at this, and that's a fact. But in the day to day, when it's your business, you've grown it. You think, well, I think I'm the best at everything, and it clearly, I mean, that can't be true. But it's
It's
genuinely not true.
it
And
can't be.
actually, it's not even that I'm not the best at some things. I'm absolutely terrible, and you could probably get a junior, an 18-year-old school leaver, and they'd be better at it than you. You're actually setting light to things, accidentally because of your ego. And I think it's funny, but it's a genuine problem, for me
Yeah,
and owners, So your friend you're describing there, I sympathise with him. I do, yeah.
absolutely, and it's so, and it's nice having got through the I have to say, got through the process because now I feel he's quite at peace with everything, properly at peace. So, and he loves to travel. He loves to visit other countries, and he does that with a peaceful mind, and yeah, which I think is what many people ultimately would probably in their heart say that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to grow this however I exit it, and then have peace, be at peace.
Be at peace,
Um,
yeah. There was one conversation I had. It was like I think you describe it as a BFA when you blind in front of the
yes,
obvious. Whereas it's in BNI, which you probably come across the network and organization, which I've been involved in 12 years. And I wanted to become a director in BNI, which is basically, up your profile, do a bit of extra work, networking, all that stuff. And you could basically be one of two choices. You can be a launch director, that's launching new groups, so
yep,
starting off, or you can be a support director that's supporting existing groups. And these skill sets are completely different. Okay.
yes.
And the head BNI guy in Yorkshire sat me down in Starbucks and said, there's two types of director, you're a launch guy. And I was just like, so for in BNI terms, I understood what that meant. Like he didn't want me as a support director.
Yeah,
But then I then played that out thinking, right, so I'm a good startup guy then. I'm a startup. I can get this thing on the road. But as soon as you need systems and smoothness and all that stuff and support and team, but I'm not that person. I got to get those person in. And it was
absolutely.
amazing how quickly my brain went from BNI to business to everything in my life. Thinking it was like this
Yep.
guy, looked into my soul. He didn't really know me that well either, but he just could clearly see. And I think it's really important knowing if you're that kind of launchy person or you're that kind of support, because I think those skill sets are so important, and you need both, obviously.
100%, and entrepreneurs over an overused word, but it's that is a trait. The entrepreneur trait is the starter, not not the finisher or not the maintainer. And but I think the thing holds us back is, well, I've started it, but I better have to run it for the 10 years just to prove that I did okay, rather than go, right, there you go. 3 months in, I've started it. Because and what's really fascinating when you talk to the people that are great runners of businesses, they absolutely, most of them would go, I couldn't even know where to start. I wouldn't have that part of my identity that would help make it easier tool for me to just
Yes,
go, sod it, give it all up, and make something
exactly.
happen. And it's therefore it's a very symbiotic relationship.
Yes,
But the challenge with human condition, most people think that the way we think is the way everybody thinks. So they
yes.
can't imagine that somebody would want to run something that we've started. It's like,
No, it's some of the things that are very small tasks in business where I do not want to do, and other people absolutely lap it up. The stuff that I
yeah,
would want to do, people don't want to go near. And it honestly, it's taken me a long time, Chris, to realize the way my brain works is, I mean, it's not. There's a segment of the population that think like me, and they're probably all business owners or entrepreneurs. They're kind of
yes,
the crazier end of the spectrum. But most people they want. One thing I used to come in when we were growing really quickly. We win loads of clients and we win in clients. And these guys were coming from other accountancy firms and they had really tight deadlines. Okay. To need their accounts week, 2 weeks, tax returns, week, 2 weeks. And I loved it. I was like, can we
yeah, yeah,
onboard these guys super fast, get these accounts done and do an amazing job? I used to walk into the office and I used to say to the team, bear in mind, they're accountants. So if you can imagine what an accountant's mindset is, and say, we have got an avalanche of work coming in. I used the word avalanche, and he was actually my business coach. And he said, "Why are you using that language?" And I was like, "That's fantastic." And I learned then, you don't talk about avalanches.
no,
They don't want that. They want orderly onboarding. They want, if you can't do that work in 2 weeks, you've got to tell that prospect straight away.
yep,
You got to position it. You got to, you can't, even if you think you could do it, you can't put pressure on people. And I would say that kind of need for the consistency and the need to kind of know where people are, the roles.
yeah,
I mean, I think it's probably increased with younger people now. That definition is even more important
yeah.
than it was when I started in business. So yeah, I have definitely knocked the edges off in terms of when I communicate with my team and with other people. Yeah,
Brilliant. And so looking forward for a second, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any, Russell?
we're really into software, AI, and digital. Really, okay.
Yeah.
So we're always thinking of anything that comes through, and with this software that I talked about, Carbon, they're a really cool company because they're sort of leading the way within accountancy, and we've sort of really nailed our colors to the mast with them.
Yes.
We're just
Yeah.
like great. If they
Brilliant.
recommend something, we're going to go with that. It's great. So we're constantly thinking how things going to change. We're trying to get ahead of HMRC on digitization, which is not that they're not that fast with their growth, but that you can definitely see the roadmap of how things are going and the way tax is going to change and all that. So we're always trying to be
Right.
ahead of it
Yeah.
and sort of embrace that. So I think with the remote working, we're in a really good space with that. But you've got to be constantly thinking, what do clients want? And ultimately, clients want speed. Speed of comms, I think,
Yeah.
is massive. I mean, I remember 10 years ago, a sister was telling me, he got an email and the person wanted a response that day. They sent the email in the morning. Now it's just like, you gotta get that stuff out. And you might be able to get out detailed calculations or detailed answers, but you need to respond. And the amount of
Yeah.
people that still come to us, and the number one reason they come to us, not because the accountant's messed up, it's not even that the accountant hasn't been proactive or they haven't told them something, if the account hasn't come back to them,
Yes.
or not been quick enough. And to me, all the tech and software has enabled us to be quick. It's enabled us to be
Absolutely.
fast. It's really, and with the AI stuff as well, it's kind of like it's just really good. I mean, I've just this is really basic for a lot of people listening, but the AI, the Zoom meetings, doing
Yep.
the note taking, it's just insane. The stuff you can kind of do, and I know that we're at the tip of the iceberg with it. So
Yep.
so for me, it's just a real opportunity, I think. And a lot of people have kind of called the end of accountancy profession for years. I've said it, and who knows? But I do think that people are going to need those people to advise and to help them, arm around the shoulder if they're in trouble,
Absolutely.
sort them out. I think
Absolutely.
they're going to need that, and that's what I think. I maybe right or wrong, but that's what I think. So that's what we're going with.
Yeah, and I completely agree. You know, and I said I've spoken to colleagues before, and not disappointed. I'm comfortable with the idea eventually, and eventually may not be that far away, that a significant part of the population might consider AI-based business coaching.
Yes.
You know, I get that, especially in terms of knowledge, education, get all of that. But I think two things. One is it's the experiential side. You actively know that the AI has not experienced what you're experiencing right now. It
Yep.
can mimic that absolutely, probably to a point where most people are comfortable with. And I think the other thing is, I think there will be a long enough period where people will still want to deal with people and
Yeah.
accept and understand that's going to cost more. I believe that to be true. It may be
Yep.
a diminishing market, and it may be we've got to migrate a lot of what we do, and we are as coaches, interesting enough. It, yeah, it's just got to go with the flow. I think I remember speaking to another accountant a while ago, and he said something like, you know, AI won't kill accountancy. Sorry, it was something like you know, accountancy still exists. It will be the accountants that master AI that will be
Yes.
the winners because
Yeah. Who use it? Exactly
it
right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's bang on. I think, and that's true of every profession. Is if we
Yes.
master it and use it and allow us to do more of what we do more effectively, then I think everybody can win.
It's funny as well in the world of accountancy with HMRC, they are on the one hand trying to do more things and grow things, and at the same time becoming clunkier and slower. So
Right.
so we've got this real challenge where we're relying on this kind of entity
Yep.
that is trying to do the right things, but actually is getting worse and making things more complicated for people, which is kind of odd. So it's odd. You've got the AI stuff, which is making life easier for
Yep.
us, but you've got this kind of other thing, and we're sort of caught in the middle sometimes. And ultimately, we've got to. There are ways around it, and you've just kind of got to be on it, and you accept that's just the reality of it.
Absolutely.
But I do see that just kind of negotiating, like for really quick example, the making tax to just stop self-employed people, making it really harder for self-employed people, harder than maybe running a limited company, whereas traditionally self-employed was the easier route in terms of
Yes.
compliance. Whereas now it's becoming a lot, and my belief is that self-employed people will pay tax quarterly, and that's what they're doing, etc. But it's yeah, it's just making it harder. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's getting people on the software and making it smooth, and tools are there, but it's just kind of enabling that to happen really.
Brilliant. Well, Russell, it's been fascinating talking to you today. And thank you so much for taking some time to share a lot of your knowledge and experiences. And for anyone that's watching would like to get in touch with you or your business, what's the best
Yeah,
way of making contact?
yeah, russell@rsaccountancy.co.uk. So that's just the best email, or RS Accountancy, Google me, that's totally fine.
Brilliant.
Yeah, you just Google that, and I'll more than happy to always happy to have a meeting with anyone to talk
Brilliant.
about anything to do with tax and accounts. More than happy to do it.
Wonderful. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by in the 6 to 12 months and just see what, the progression of you and your business and
Yes.
where the whole digital world is going. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
No, brilliant. Thank you, Chris. Cheers.
Thank you.